falling apart. By January 1984, Nicky Scarfo had been the boss of the Philadelphia Atlantic City mob for approximately 34 months, and spent 17 of those months, or half of his tenure to that point, behind bars in a federal prison in El Paso, Texas. The crime family he had left was not necessarily the crime family he was returning to at the end of his prison sentence. Simply put, the Scarfo mob was in tatters, with many of Scarfo's top guys facing legal problems of their own, some of the charges stemming from incidents that occurred while Scarfo's men were drunk. For starters, Scarfo's longtime friend and underboss, Salvatore Chucky Merlino, had been arrested on suspicion of drunk driving in Margate, and during the course of his arrest, the drunken mob underboss had offered the arresting officer a bribe in the form of his expensive gold watch, as the entire episode was captured on videotape. Merlino was booked on attempted bribery and DWI charges, and faced as many as 10 years in state prison. Merlino's brother Lawrence had been arrested and charged with disorderly conduct after he got drunk at a wedding and then made terroristic threats to a Philadelphia police officer. Like his brother Chucky, Lawrence was also facing state prison time. Despite promising to clean up his act, Nicholas Nick the Blade Virgilio was back in trouble after a drunken incident at an Atlantic City casino, where during a fight, he threatened to kill a man. The twice-convicted murderer was sent to state prison for 3 years as a result. Scarfo's own son, Nicky Jr., was facing an underage drinking rap following an arrest in Atlantic City. Scarfo capo Joseph Chicky Ciancalini had lost his appeal on federal racketeering charges and was hauled off to federal prison, as was his co-defendant, Mario Sonny Ricobene, who headed what was left of the Ricobene gang. Both Raymond Long John Martirano and his son Cowboy were facing federal drug charges, and rumors were around that Long John would soon face charges for his role in the murder of union boss John McCullough, after it was reported that the triggerman Willard Jr. Moran was cooperating with the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. Saul Kane was also under investigation on federal drug charges. Frank Geraci was facing charges that he had embezzled union funds when he was the head of Local 54 and allegedly funneled those funds to Scarfo and Leonetti. Even Scarfo's attorney Bobby Simone was facing a federal prison sentence after getting indicted for income tax evasion. But the worst news Scarfo was to hear dealt with his own nephew, Philip Leonetti, who had been indicted on extortion charges stemming from his involvement in a corrupt land deal with the mayor of Atlantic City. Now, while all of the stuff with the Ricobenes was going on in Philadelphia, I started getting involved with some new things for our family in Atlantic City. A few years earlier, I had been approached by a guy named Frank Lentino, who had been a Teamster, and then was with us in Local 54, about getting involved with a local politician named Mike Matthews, who wanted to become the mayor of Atlantic City. Mike Matthews sent word through Frank Lentino that he wanted our help in getting him elected. We had given him almost $200,000 for his campaign, and had helped him win by getting all of the unions to support him. One of the first things he did for me was to make a guy who we were close with the chief of police. His name was Joe Pasquale, and he and my uncle both knew him and liked him. We trusted him, and he always looked out for us. Now, when I was meeting with Mike Matthews, one of the trade-offs for our support was that we would get a piece of what they called the H-Tract, which was a 78-acre parcel of land that the city was going to sell to a casino developer for millions of dollars. It had been a landfill, the site of the city dump, but this was going to be a major score for all of us, me and my uncle, as well as Matthews and Frank Lentino, who had set the whole thing up. Everything seemed great. But it wasn't. The casino developer who had promised to pay Matthews and Lentino the kickback money that would be used to pay Scarfo and Leonetti turned out to be an undercover FBI agent. Before long, Leonetti, Lentino, and Matthews were all indicted and looking at lengthy federal prison sentences. Nicodemo Scarfo would be named as an unindicted co-conspirator. It seemed that the only high-ranking member of the Scarfo mob that didn't have legal problems was Salvie Testa, Scarfo's street boss and the leader of the young executioner's crew. But Salvie Testa had other problems. Following the shooting incident in the Italian market, the handsome young mob captain started dating the beautiful, dark-haired daughter of family underboss Salvatore Chucky Merlino. Pretty soon, the two lovebirds were engaged, and a wedding date was set. The underworld was abuzz at the thought of the Merlino and Testa families, both mob royalty, being aligned through marriage. Everyone seemed to be happy for them. Well, almost everybody. One day my uncle called the office from jail, and I told him that Salvie had gotten engaged to Chucky's daughter. When I said it, there was dead silence on his end of the receiver. I knew that he wasn't happy about it. I knew that his paranoia would start, and he would go through every possible scenario of what could happen if Salvie married Chucky's daughter. Would they form an alliance and try to overthrow him? Would they try to kill him? Could he ever fully trust that they weren't plotting against him? These are all of the thoughts that went through his head in the 15 seconds of silence on the phone. That is how his sick mind worked. But Scarfo's worries were for naught, as Salvie Testa would soon break off the engagement, leaving both Chucky Merlino and his daughter embarrassed and furious. The once solid relationship between Nicky Scarfo's underboss and his street boss was now irrevocably shattered, and little Nicky couldn't have been happier.